north, west, south. Do you know where that is? Okay. Jude says we're ready. If you're just joining, I'm going to ask you to maybe just pop in chat where you're tuning in from. I hope you're in some comfy clothes, staying warm. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's so nice to meet you virtually. I have to say, the vibe here in person at the conference is exciting. We were just discussing how the conference in person is sold out. So there's quite a few people here. It's just nice to be together again after what feels like the pandemic took forever. But you guys are in your jammies, comfy and cozy at home. If you want to pop in chat where you're tuning in from, I would love to see where you all are. And we're going to get started here in about 30 seconds because I want to just be mindful of time. Also, fun fact, I have a live in person, giving the same presentation in person directly following this session. So I will be packing up and running up the stairs, setting up again. Allegheny County borders, West Virginia. Okay, no wonder I didn't know where that is. Your girl is from Northern Virginia, Arlington area. Ooh, all right, so it's Caroline's from Alexandria. Perfect. Petersburg County. Wonderful. Nice to meet you, Beth. I see Beth put in her role. If you guys want to just tell me what you do, if you're teaching, if you're the technology coordinator of some sort, maybe you work for some kind of nonprofit in some other capacity. We have some vendors here today. Librarian, wonderful. Angie's a librarian. IT, RT. It's so interesting that all these different counties call the IT people different things. Yeah, technology-based specialists. Oh, FCPS. Worked for FCPS for like 8 years. Wonderful. Ooh, someone's returning to the classroom. Oh, returning to the classroom in the fall. Certified SPED and Gen Ed. Wonderful. All right, I'm so excited to see what we create and share today. Since it's 2:15, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to be using a Nearpod. So if you want to just pull up a second tab, and you can go to nearpod.com, or if you're on an iPad, you can download the Nearpod app. It's free. And you're going to type in the code that you see on the screen. And if we have friends that are joining later, this code will permanently stay at the top of the screen. And I'll regularly prompt people if they come in late. So I'll give everyone a couple minutes to just join. Once you're in it, once you type in the code, it's going to be like, put in your name. You want to just put in your nickname, first name, whatever works for you. And then you should be looking at the title of this presentation, which is Engaging Elementary Students in Computer Science in a Meaningful Way. I just started using Nearpod. I don't know, some of you might be pros at Nearpod. This is like new to me. I love it. I'm all about it. I'm fully converted. Okay, great. Okay, so you should be looking at the screen. And if at any point, if you're like still struggling, don't worry. The code is located at the very top of the screen. Just enter that at any time. If you're like, Molly, I just want to sit back and watch, I don't want to join Nearpod, that's fine. But honestly, it engages you and it helps me kind of understand where you all are. So I would encourage you, of course, to join. Let me check one more time. Oh, Beth says Nearpod is amazing. I agree. Fully converted. Okay, to get started, I want to just get a sense of what your coding skills are thus far. So maybe it's just, have you coded yourself? Maybe you have taught some coding with, maybe you've tested it out with some students. I'm just trying to get a sense of, are you super experienced and you're thinking, Molly, I could teach this class? Or maybe you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea. I haven't coded before. That's why I'm here. So just go ahead and respond to the poll. I'm just going to get a sense of where we are. Wonderful. Okay, so most of us, it sounds like, are somewhat experienced. Great. That's why we're here. So hopefully you'll walk away with some fabulous ideas and some coding resources. So speaking of which, this is what's happening today. We're going to quickly just define project-based learning and STEM education, STEAM education, excuse me. And the reason I'm doing that is I feel like everyone sort of has their own definition of what that is. And I want to be very specific about how I define it and utilize it in my lessons. And then I'm going to model an introductory coding lesson. We're going to hop onto Scratch and actually do some coding ourselves, which is really fun. And I want to give you some time to kind of reflect on what your takeaways are. How could you use some of this with your students? How could you use some of this with fellow teachers? What questions you still have. My wonderful assistant, Jude, I hope that's okay. That's what I'm calling you. We'll be monitoring chat. So if you at any point during the presentation have a question, feel free to put it in the Zoom chat. And when we kind of have a good lull or time, I can answer them. I will definitely address them at the end of this presentation. And then lightning fast, I'm going to just talk about why this work is important, share some resources, and then of course, I want to give you my contact information so we can collaborate in the future. So I didn't really introduce myself, so I feel like I should probably do that right now. My name is Molly Fisher. I am sort of wearing two hats today. I work full-time in Arlington Public Schools as the Instructional Technology Coordinator, otherwise known as ITC. At Abingdon Elementary, but I also, because teachers can't just have one job, work a side hustle for a local nonprofit in Northern Virginia called Boolean Girl, whose mission is to engage young girls in computer science. Excuse me. More importantly, I've taught elementary art, STEAM, and computer science for the past 12 plus years. I've gotten my master's degree from GW, and I wrote a thesis titled Putting the A in STEAM Education. So I've been doing this for a while. Am I loud? Okay, you're good. Okay, great. So that's me. I'll give you all just a couple quiet seconds to read what these definitions say.
While you're in the lull, there's a question bug.
I see that. I'll cover that when we get to Scratch. So project-based learning has been around a while, so I don't think this is groundbreaking for anyone, but it's essentially a student-centered approach to learning. I like to use the design process with all my lessons. So it starts with some kind of driving question or challenge or sort of introduction to the project. Students are then to kind of imagine or plan out how they're going to answer this question or challenge. Then we do a lot of testing, creating, and all the while kind of making improvements. And STEAM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Math. You can imagine you're just adding the A to STEM. But I define STEAM education as when a lesson covers two or more of those content areas. And of course, I like to use art a lot because that's my background. And Mitch Resnick, who is the founder of Scratch, agrees with me. I'm in a Scratch cohort that's been meeting for the past couple months, and I stole this slide from him. Hope that's okay. And he says, engaging or using creative learning when developing ideas or things that are meaningful to you or to others you care about actually really engages the students fully, right? Like when students are given opportunities to share something about their life or something about them, we know that they're more apt to participate. So the lesson I'm going to be doing with you all or modeling for you all today has to do with, or was sort of inspired by, my school-wide expectations. And I would imagine all of you have some kind of list that is similar to this one. But the one that my students and staff struggle with the most is this being assertive. The students have a hard time kind of defining that and describing what that means. So before we move forward, can I just in chat, or if you want to raise your hand and unmute, can I get some definitions or descriptions of what you all think it means to be assertive? What do you think that looks and sounds like? It could be at school or not. How would you describe or define what it means to be assertive? Yeah, Corey says, knowing what you want and advocating for yourself. Yeah, advocating for yourself and being clear about your boundaries. Oh, I love the word boundaries. Being sure of oneself, standing up for yourself. Yeah, precisely. I was doing this lesson, I sort of piloted it with an after school program with my students. And we talked a lot about like that, like kind of gut feeling that you get in your stomach when like you're like something is off or like something's not sitting right and I feel like I have to do something about it, you know. And the act of being assertive could be speaking up, or maybe it's just like an actual action or choice that you're making, right? Okay, can you guys see this? Okay. All right, we're gonna watch a video. And in this video, I want you to think about maybe how some of the characters are being assertive. Fingers crossed, this works.
Hey, partner. I gotta tell you something. Whoa. Nice trench. Okay, let's go.
Bad trench, bad trench. Come on, we're gonna swim over this thing.
Whoa, partner. Little red flag going up. Something's telling me we should swim through it, not over it.
Are you even looking at this thing? It's got death written all over it.
I'm sorry, but I really think we should swim through.
And I'm really done talking about this. Over we go.
Come on, trust me on this.
Trust you.
Yes, trust. It's what friends do.
Look, something shiny.
Where?
Oh, it just swam over the trench. Come on, we'll follow it.
Okay. Boy, sure is clear up here.
Exactly. And look at that. There's the current. We should be there in no time.
Hey, little guy.
You wanted to go through the trench.
I shall call him Squishy, and he shall be mine, and he shall be my Squishy. Come here, Squishy. Come here, little Squishy. Ow!
Dory, that's a jellyfish.
Bad Squishy. Bad Squishy.
Shoot. Get it. Come here, let me see that.
Don't touch it. Don't touch
I'm
it.
not gonna touch it. I just want to look.
Hey, how come it didn't sting you?
It did. It's just
Ow,
a
ow,
hold
ow.
still. Live in the anemone, and I'm used to these kind of stings. Come here.
Ow.
It doesn't look bad. You're gonna be fine. But now we know, don't we, that we don't want to touch these again. Let's be thankful this time it was just a little one. This is bad, Dory.
Hey, what's this? Boing, boing, boing,
Dory!
boing, boing. You can't
Dory!
catch me.
Don't bounce on the tops. They will
Boing,
not sting you. The
boing.
tops don't sting you. That's it.
2 in a row. Beat that.
Dory, all right, listen to me. I have an idea. A game.
A game.
A game.
A game?
Yes.
I love games. Pick me.
All right, here's the game.
Oh.
Whoever can hop the fastest out of these jellyfish wins.
Okay.
Rules.
Okay.
You can't touch the tentacles. Only the tops.
Something about tentacles. Got it. On your mark, get
No,
set.
wait. Not something about them. It's about? Wait!
Gotta go faster if you want to win.
Look, Dory, look!
Boing, 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 boing.
Wait a minute! Look! Dory!
Whee!
So we're cheating death now. That's what we're doing. We're having fun at the same time. I can do this. Just be careful.
Yeah, careful I don't make you cry when I win.
No, I don't think so.
Give it up, old man. You can't fight evolution. I was built for speed.
The question is, Dory, are you hungry?
Hungry?
Yeah? Because you're about to eat my bubbles. The clownfish is the winner. Woohoo! We did it. Look at us. Dory? Oh, no. Dory! 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 Dory!
Am I disqualified?
No, you're doing fine. You're actually winning. But you gotta stay awake. Where does P. Sherman live?
P. Sherman. Wallaby Way. Sydney.
That's it! Oh, stay awake! Stay awake! Oh, stay awake! Stay awake!
All right. I love that movie. Could I get some brave individuals to maybe just raise their hand and share what happened in that video? Maybe provide some context if you haven't seen Finding Nemo. I realized I didn't give you guys a heads up as to what we were going to watch. Does anyone want to just, and when I say share, I mean just generally give kind of a summary of what took place in that video. Or if you're like, Molly, I'm shy, you can type it in chat. But I would love to hear some of your voices. What happened in that video? Thank you, Beth. Go ahead.
So Dory had a gut feeling, but he didn't really recognize or acknowledge it and took her the way that he wanted to go. And we saw what happened. It was a little dangerous and they were kind of stuck in that situation, but he did help her in the end. But I think the biggest thing is acknowledging when someone else has those gut feelings, and her personality, she was not assertive enough, or she was easily distracted away, I guess.
Yeah, so Beth was pointing out at the very beginning of the clip when Dory was trying to speak up, but we know that Dory has some memory issues. So Nemo's dad, I can't remember the clownfish's name, Nemo's dad was a little bit dismissive and kind of just decided to take Dory in the direction that he wanted to go in. And I noticed in the chat, Dory was being assertive because she didn't feel comfortable. Marlon, that's his name, didn't agree with her thoughts and took advantage of her, STML. I'm not sure what that stands for. And tricked her into, oh, sorry, that's a lot of loud little voices here. Okay, short-term memory loss, thank you. And tricks her into following the path. Yeah, so I'm wondering, we're saying Dory was trying to be assertive, right? Was there a time in which maybe another character was assertive in that clip? When else did we see maybe an example of being assertive take place? And it doesn't necessarily have to be when a character was speaking up. It could just be a choice that they were making, right?
I think he was assertive, and when he realized that they weren't getting stung on the top and coming up with a game and a way for them to get out safely.
Yeah. Marlon was saying, we can make this fun, right? But yeah, this is what we're going to have to do to get out of the situation. Yeah. Thank you, Beth. Okay, so I want you to think about a time that you were assertive, but this is going to be our overarching question or challenge for this project. So how can I, a computer scientist, animate a story about a time I was assertive in Scratch? I have a lot of commas in there. I'm looking at this right now. I'm not sure if that grammatically makes sense, but typically when I'm with my students, I like to kind of break this down, and I would ask them to put on their critical and creative thinking hats and consider, what are we going to have to figure out or discover to answer this question? And just for the sake of time, I'm going to break it down for you. So for instance, what does a computer scientist do, right? I don't know. You're asking me to be a computer scientist. I don't know what they do. It's probably something with coding, but I'm not sure. The key verb in this question is animate. What does that mean? How am I going to do that? Also, it looks like I'm going to have to think about a time that I was assertive. Oh boy. And then also, what's Scratch? What do you mean? I don't know what that is. Is that a coding program? I don't know how to use it. So those are some things that we're going to have to kind of, working backwards, tackle. So if you're feeling brave, I'm going to ask you to type a time that you were assertive. It doesn't have to be school related. It can be outside of school. If you're thinking, I don't feel comfortable doing that, Molly, you can just think about something. Or if you want to just jot something down on a piece of paper. While you're doing that, I'm going to share a time that I was assertive. I'll be vulnerable. So I am dyslexic and was diagnosed, thankfully, early on in my school career, and was given, had an IEP that came with accommodations. And if you don't know anything about dyslexia, it basically just means that I struggle real bad with reading and writing. And I remember there was a time in my 7th grade English class when I was writing at the top of my tests that I needed more time to complete the test. And my teacher was just ignoring this and grading them. And consequently, I was doing really bad. So I was like basically failing my 7th grade English class. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And if you work with 7th graders, or you remember what it was like to be in 7th grade, you remember that like any choice you made was just like embarrassing and you didn't want to stand out. So I was like, oh gosh, okay. So I either go talk to my teacher about this or I fail this class. So I scrounged up the courage, went to my teacher and was like, listen, I'm supposed to get accommodations. You haven't been giving me extra time. I'm doing really poorly in your class. Miss Rose, I remember her name was Mrs. Rose. She was like, oh my gosh, I was giving this stack of tests to my assistant at the time, who must have been her like, I don't know if it was like a sub or someone to grade. And I was assuming that you had already gotten the extra time. She was like, we can absolutely fix this. So that's my story. Let me see if I have, oh, no one shared in. Okay. So just marinate on that. Think of a time that you were assertive, because I'm going to ask you to animate it here in just a minute. I love a plan paper, because before we get on the computer, I like students to think through their ideas first. And this is the plan paper I've created for this project. Speaking of which, I'm going to give you resources to all of this at the end. So if you're thinking, I want that plan paper, you're going to get it. But it has the driving question at the top. It asks students to finish the sentence. A time I was assertive was when. The second one says, plan the beginning, middle, and end of your story. So they can either write or draw. And then if they've coded before, maybe once they've thought through that, they're circling some of the coding blocks that they might select when they go to code it in Scratch. Okay. It's time to code. I know that's why you're here. If you're new to Scratch, I will tell you, one, it's a free resource. So you just need an email to access it. And if you're thinking, I need to create an account, you can. You can code today through the website and not create an account. It just won't save. So in the future, if you're like, I'll eventually create an account and then I want to save my work, great. If we have time at the end of this session to talk more about how to create accounts with your students, because that's probably a thought that you're having right now, there's a couple ways that you can approach that. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you to just be present for the next couple minutes while I demonstrate some things. And then I promise I'm going to give you time to independently work in Scratch. Okay, because sometimes when we're toggling back and forth between tabs, you're going to miss some information. So I'm going to hop onto Scratch right now. And you'll notice that I'm already logged in. So I'm not going to take the time to show you how to make an account. All you need to know is that it's free. And if you want to make one right in just a couple minutes, you can. But when you get to the home screen, I'm going to go ahead and click on Create in the top left-hand corner. And just for the sake of time, I'm also not going to go into how amazing Scratch is and all the things that it does, just because we've only got an hour. So let me just give you the grand tour. Over here on the left-hand side, you have the different categories of the different kinds of blocks of code that you can choose from. And you're going to drag this code to build an algorithm, which is essentially like a whole list of code into this blank space in the middle here. And whatever we build is going to get our characters and or backdrops to kind of come to life. So you'll notice that Scratch automatically selects the Scratch cat for you. And if you're like, I don't want to use the Scratch cat, you can just click this trash can button. And you have some other sprite or character options in the bottom right-hand corner. So if I toggle over this kitty cat icon, you'll notice that there's a Scratch catalog, which I would encourage you to use. You can select from sort of pre-made sprites. You can paint your own, which if you're like an art person like me and really love to do that, you can absolutely do that. Or maybe you want to do like some kind of fun combination, which is also fun. That looks kind of creepy, so I'm not going to use that. You can have Scratch select one randomly for you if you're like, I don't really care. Or you can upload one from your computer. I would not encourage you to do this initially because depending on the file, sometimes it doesn't load correctly. But if you have some more advanced students and want to do that, knock yourself out. So I'm going to go to the Scratch catalog and choose some characters. So I'm thinking about my story, which is about myself and my English teacher, Miss Rose. And I like to tell students their story needs to be inspired by their life. Some kind of real, something that pertains to their life. It actually happened or something that they're interested in. But if they want to take some creative liberty with it, I'm here for it. So for instance, I'm thinking I'm going to choose dinosaurs to be my characters. So for instance, we'll make Miss Rose the Bronchiosaurus. Is that what it's called? Is it bad that I want to like refer to them as the Land Before Time dinosaurs? I was like, Littlefoot. That's what I was thinking. Anyone else? Land Before Time? Anyone else? Okay. I'm going to flip this character over so that it is facing the other character. And I'm in this tab in the top left-hand corner here, if you didn't notice, and then I'm going to click flip. And then I'm going to choose a backdrop, and then I'm going to give you time to work. So the backgrounds, same options in the bottom right-hand corner over here. I'm going to go to the catalog again, and I'm going to click indoors because which one of these do you think best represents my English classroom? Can anyone maybe unmute or share in chat? Thank you, Stephanie. She loves The Land Before Time. Thank you. Which background should I use? Help me. Which one should I use? Unmute or put it in chat. Which best? Room 1. Okay. Okay. Bedroom. No, room 1, she says. Okay. That has some English classroom vibes. I agree. This is great. Okay. For the sake of time, I'm going to stop. So what I would like you to do is 1, create a Scratch account if you would like to. 2, go into the Scratch Studio. 3, select your characters and backdrops, and then stop. Okay. I'll be here if you have questions while you're working. Obviously, I'm going to put a timer on. If you missed the link to Scratch, it's scratch.mit.edu, or just Google Scratch, honestly. I'm going to put on a timer. Let's work for maybe like 6 minutes. Does that sound okay? That feels like a solid amount of time. Okay. 6-ish minutes. And if at any point you want to share your screen and show us what you're doing, I would love to see it. Scratch thing open here, but also have the timer. Okay. My lovely assistant Jude is reminding me to circle back to this question from Beth about, do you know of any other options versus Scratch? Oh, it's currently blocked on students' devices in my division. Interesting. Okay. I wonder why it's blocked. If it's blocked for, I would imagine, security purposes, because it is an online platform. Sometimes students can be irresponsible and share inappropriate stuff, or like, yeah, give mean comments. Beth, did you want to elaborate on that?
Sure, I will. So I have used Scratch tons of times with students, but a lot of my experiences with older kids, like 4th, 5th grade, and then I was a secondary teacher, and I'm at elementary schools now. And one of my teachers has taken like an after-school course where she works with teachers about putting in, coding, and their class are talking about Scratch. And so we were all excited. We had tied it to their current science curriculum. I had mocked up some examples we were ready to introduce. And when the kids went to sign in, it was blocked. And I am being told by the other side of our tech department that it's blocked because there's not enough people moderating the content, because, you can share publicly. And so there had been some misuse of it, because it used to be unblocked within our division. And so now it's just, we're kind of on hold until they change that decision or figure out another way. Like, I'll be honest, as often as I've used Scratch, I guess I've never really searched all the content out there, because I use it to create, and then I create, what is it? The little workspaces where the kids can put their stuff all in one thing. That might not be the name for it.
Right.
But so I was very bummed, and I've been frantically searching for another option where they can create with coding, not just practice coding, but create. I did find one, it was called Elementary, but it's more like storybook creation. And instead of the block coding, everything's like on the backside, and it took me a few hours to kind of figure out the coding process. It just, like, instead of each character having their own page of code, it's all on one thing. So it's a little busier.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah.
Let me quickly respond, because it sounds like 2 things are happening. One, the district is concerned about inappropriate content. And to me, that ties in with a digital citizenship component, right? Like, we're online. So having that conversations with students is unavoidable. And if we're using, like, anytime I use some kind of web-based anything, I always have a digital citizenship conversation with my students ahead of time, right? So that's how these lessons always start. So you could approach the district and say, listen, this is just a management issue. Like we get that you can't manage everything all the time. I realize I probably don't get paid enough to probably say something like that, but in my mind, it's unavoidable. So we should be teaching kids how to navigate these virtual spaces responsibly and safely. And then secondly, you could download, there are different versions of Scratch. So like you could download a desktop version so that they're not on the internet, in which case that avoids that issue. And students would just save directly to that device. If you're on laptops, you could save it directly to the device, or there's a Scratch app. I learned that today, that there's a Scratch app that is also not on a web-based app. As for other options, I'm trying to think back to when I was first starting to code. If anyone wants to put in chat if they have other suggestions, like Codable or like Tinker or some of these like fun computer science toys come with block-based coding, code.org. Did I answer your question, Beth?
You did. I will definitely look into the desktop version as an option. And we approached them because, my department, instructional technology, when we first were told why it was blocked, we expressed to them like, well, that's just, that's kind of a classroom management thing. We have Hapara for our school system. And we were like, maybe we just need to reach out to these teachers and offer them some more assistance in monitoring the students when they're online. So we're still trying because it is such an amazing tool, but I did not realize there was a desktop version. So I will definitely look into that. I had mentioned maybe we could get like a class set where it would be unblocked, but the way that it works is if it's unblocked for one device, it's unblocked for all of them.
Sure. Yeah. Great question, Beth. And I'm sure other people were thinking that same thing. So I'm so glad that you brought that up.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the other ideas with Scratch. We'll definitely look into them.
Absolutely. Okay. Some of you were probably working while I was answering Beth's question, in which case, wonderful. At this time, I hope you have some characters and a backdrop selected. And I'm going to go ahead and model some entry-level coding. So if you could make your way back to the Nearpod screen, if you're in Scratch, I promise I'm going to give you some more time here to continue coding, but I just wanted to model some entry-level skills. And what I gathered from sort of our pre-assessment data that I collected is that you're somewhat familiar. So I'm going to go somewhat fast. If I'm going too fast, be like, yo, slow down. So when you're coding in Scratch, the first thing that you always want to select is an event. And that's under this category here. I'm going to use the when the green flag is clicked because that's kind of the most popular one in Scratch. And you'll notice I've got this Littlefoot character selected if I'm referencing Land Before Time. And I'm thinking about what I want my characters to do at the beginning of my story. And I would have planned this out sort of on my plan paper. So I'm thinking at the beginning of my story, I'm going to be this T-Rex character, and I'm going to be walking up to this dinosaur. So actually I need to code this character first. And maybe I'm holding my test. So I'm going to just really quickly edit this to make it look like I'm, oopsies. Okay, cool. And then maybe I'll put some text in here just really quickly. Test. I'm an art person, so I literally could just spend all my time in here. And if you have little kids, that's probably gonna just what they're gonna want to do, in which case, let them. If it means they're engaged in some way, like why not? And I'm gonna put like a D- on here. I'm getting a D-. Oh boy. Okay, here's my here's my character. Okay, so I'm thinking I'm going to have my character move from sort of out of the frame into the frame to kind of talk to this teacher of mine. And when we're moving, we're going to go to this motion category. And remember, when we're coding, we have to tell the computer or characters what to do. Otherwise, they don't know how to do it. So oftentimes kids get tripped up because they forget this step. And then they're like, wait, Miss Fisher, how do I reset it? I want my character to go back to this spot. This is what you're going to do. You'll notice when you move the character within this frame right here, it tells you the XY coordinates, which if you're in 3rd or 4th or 2nd grade, you're talking about coordinates, right? So I'm going to drag this over. So when the green flag is clicked, I want him, the T-Rex, to start here. And then I want him to kind of walk up to this Bronchiosaurus. So I'm going to have him glide to this XY coordinate. And you'll notice it automatically fills in the coordinate when I move it. Okay. And then I'm wondering, shouldn't I like say something to my teacher? Remember in my story, I'm sort of bringing up the fact that I'm doing terribly in class. Can anyone make a suggestion as to maybe what I could say to my teacher? You can type it in chat, or if you just want to unmute, go for it. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Can I spell? Excuse me. Maybe I'll even add like another. I wanted to talk to you about. Wait, no, I'm gonna say you haven't given me extra time tests. Okay, I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna run my code. This is really important. And in coding, we call this debugging. So I write code and then I run it, I test it and go back and make changes. Excuse me. You're gonna give me extra time on my test. Love it. Okay, let's go in and code the other dino, right? So remember, your characters don't know what to do unless you tell them what to do. So this Bronchiosaurus cannot be rude. Littlefoot can't be rude and interrupt me while I'm talking to them. So I actually have to put in a wait, which is under the control category, under this orange circle here. So I'm going to have the Bronchiosaurus wait a total of 1 plus 2 plus 2 more, which is going to be, it's going to wait a total of 5 seconds to then respond to me. So I'm wondering, does anyone have a suggestion? What is my teacher going to say back to me? If you want to type in chat or unmute. Miss Rose just realized she didn't give her student extra time. What are they saying? And I just said, excuse me, you didn't give me extra time on my test. How are they responding? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Or, of course, let me give you more time. Or let's schedule a meeting and we can talk about it. What do you guys think? Oh, what an oversight of mine. Let me make sure you get that so I comply with the law. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm gonna shorten it. I'm gonna say, oh, you're right. I'm so sorry. Let's get what you want. Let's get you what you need. Okay. I'm gonna combine those. What an oversight of mine. My dyslexia is showing fully right now. Let's get you what you need. Exclamation point. Thank you, spell check. Okay. Really quickly, I'm going to put in a loop. This is sort of a more advanced coding concept. So far, we've got an event. We've pulled code from the looks and motion category. I'm going to go under the control category and grab a loop. And this is a great intro loop, which is like a repeat, whatever kind of blocks of code you put inside this loop for however many times. And my favorite thing to do is to have the character change costumes, which is like the different versions of their sprite. So you'll notice when I click this tab in the top left-hand corner, I've got different variations of my dino. So what I'm going to do is under the looks category, I'm going to have my dino switch from dinosaur. How about we'll just have him do this? Why not? Like, and I'm going to flip him so that he's facing the correct direction. There we go. So back and forth like this. I don't know. Maybe I'm celebrating that. In fact, my teacher has finally acknowledged that they were supposed to. I'll put 1 second. Let's see what happens. So I put a wait in between the changing of these costumes. This is really important because otherwise it's happening so fast that you can't see it because computers are like that. So I'm going to put a wait kind of on sandwiched on either ends of this repeat. And I'm not going to have it repeat 10 times. That's kind of like a lot. Let's do 3. Okay, I've written a lot of code. Let's run it. Let's see what happens here. Excuse me, you haven't given me extra time on my test. What an oversight. Let's get what you need. Oh, interesting. Okay, so a couple things happened. I don't know if you caught this. One, I had the wrong costume of Dino when I was walking onto the screen. And then 2, I didn't wait until my teacher was done talking to then respond. So I have to fix a couple things. I need to put in the correct costume at the very beginning of my story, which is Dinosaur A. And then, how long is she talking to me? 2 seconds. So then I need to put in a wait here. And if you're like, Molly, you're going really fast, that's okay. All right, we're going to run this one more time, and then I'm going to give you a couple minutes to work here. Excuse me. What an oversight of mine. Let's get you what you need. Yay! Thank you. Okay, I'm going to stop once again and give you a couple minutes to code on your own. So you've got your characters, you've got your backdrop. I want you to use an event. I want you to pull from some different categories. So try pulling a couple like lines of code from the motion and looks category, and think about how you might include a loop or a sound. I didn't even show you how to do that. So I'm going to challenge you to use those blocks. We're going to work for about 8 minutes, and then I'm going to check in with you. And again, if you have questions while you're working, I'm here. Let me just make sure that I'm following along in Nearpod. Let's say 8 minutes. I don't see any questions in chats. I'm going to put the music on. If it's too loud, let me know. That sound okay? This is like we're in the club right now. This isn't relaxing really at all. I'm really sorry. I don't know why I picked this, but can you even hear it? Okay, great. Choose into it. Good. If at any point you would like to drop your project in the chat for others to see, or if you want to just share your screen, or if you want to unmute and kind of describe what you're doing, or you could even take a screenshot and put it in chat. Like, this is what I don't like about virtual learning, is that I can't see what you're doing. It drives me nuts. So if you feel inspired and want to share in some kind of way, I would love to see. Otherwise, we have about 3 minutes left here. Hold on, Beth, I'm looking, it's loading.
I've got, they've been refilling them. Okay, I got one from one hyper. I went to one that was, where my making this morning, 4 unfortunate souls. Oh, I saw that.
Oh my gosh, Beth, the dialogue is so good. Beth has a story about, is it your dog, Lily?
It was my friend's dog. When I went over there one day, like she usually used to run to the door and give me all kinds of kisses, and she
Yeah.
didn't. And he said she'd been acting like that for a few days, and he didn't seem to really care. And like he was like, I don't have the time or money to take her to the vet. So I scooped her up, took her to the vet. She ended up having to have surgery. It was a little late for the surgery.
Oh,
So we had her
no.
for about 2 more weeks, and she passed away with kidney failure. But like,
Aw.
yeah,
Aw.
I was her advocate, but I was like, nope, not letting this happen. So I just scooped her up and took her
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah, it sounds like some abnormal behavior. You were like, this creature is not normally like this. Something's up.
Yeah.
Getting that gut feeling, and I'm going to advocate for it. All right, friends, if you would like to drop a link to your project, if you're like, Molly, I don't know how to do that, don't worry about it. Or if you want to take a screenshot of what you're working on and put it in chat, or if you want to just describe it. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time to kind of celebrate and take a deeper dive into what you've been making. On the slides I'm going to share, it's got more explanations as to what specific blocks or sort of coding terms I've covered while we've been working. That's also linked on the VISD website where you registered. There's a PDF version of this. So typically like midway through the project, or definitely at the very end of the project when we're wrapping up, I like to go over my project criteria. I like to keep it really just student-friendly language, no more than 4 bullets. So at the end of this, your animation should be about a time that you are assertive. It should include a beginning, middle, and end. It should contain an algorithm, meaning a list of code, that has at least 10 lines, and it should have an event and a loop. Those were the 2 specific coding terms, and I pulled those specifically from the Virginia Computer Science Standards. And then, of course, it should run without any glitches. So they're practicing that debugging, going back and fixing anything. I notice Angie's got a question in chat. I'm going to circle back to that, I promise, Angie, here in just a minute. You might be thinking, how am I going to use some of this with my students? How might I use this with teachers? What is like one thing that you want to take away from this presentation? Maybe you're like, oh, I didn't realize I could insert meaning to something that's so technical. Maybe you want to show teachers how to do a PBL. I'm going to address Angie's question because she put it in chat. It says, she says, can students create accounts or do they need to go through their teacher accounts? That depends on your school and or county. And Jude's shaking his head. He's like, yeah, I know about that. So for instance, like my school will have students create their own accounts because they have emails and it's free. And we're going to talk about digital citizenship prior to hopping on the online program. I've also done it where I was like, I don't want to keep track of like a million passwords. You can have them log into an account that you make, and then they just create their own projects and it's all in one space and you can monitor it. Or as I was suggesting earlier, you can download a version of the program that's not web-based. So it doesn't involve students getting online and they're just saving their project directly to the desktop or directly to the app on their iPads. Did that answer your question, Angie? Yes, thanks. Wonderful. Okay, I see one person responding to how they're going to apply their learning with teachers. I would love to see 3 more responses. We have 4 minutes left. What are you taking away from this presentation? I'm just trying to get a sense of what resonated with you, what's something that you think students will enjoy, what's something you might try with teachers, what questions do you still have? And if you're navigating Nearpod on the right-hand side, there's like a caret where you can select the question that you want to respond to. I probably should have explained that earlier. What are you taking away? Yeah. Yeah, using coding while creating stories. Elizabeth says finding ways to incorporate it into their curricula for students. Yeah, student expression. Yeah, this was this project in particular, I pulled from the technology in STEAM and the A in STEAM. But you could certainly like replace the challenge like I've done a bunch of science stuff. We've created math games. Like you could just insert any other content and or whatever into that driving question, and the options are endless. Where do we go to get the downloadable version of Scratch? That's a great question. I don't remember. Elizabeth, why don't we connect on LinkedIn later if you're okay with that, and we can tackle that together. That's a really good question. Somehow I've had other people do that for me in the past. I don't know how I haven't done that myself.
30 seconds.
Okay, great. Oh, we got 30 seconds. Oh my gosh. Okay, you guys. I didn't even get to the last couple slides, but that's okay. There are resources linked in this presentation if you want to explore lessons like this through my Boolean Girl program that I work for. You can click this and head to that website right now. Otherwise, if you want to scan this QR code, Elizabeth, please do, and follow me, connect on LinkedIn. I would love to work with you in the future and kind of continue this conversation. I know we're rushed. If we could give Jude a round of applause for helping me. I've done that. You can't see him, but he exists, I promise. Thank you so much for your time. I hope that you're walking away with something useful. It was lovely meeting you all virtually. Again, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to continue to collaborate with you. If you want to turn your camera on or just give me a bye in chat, that would be great. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you. And here's my little doggy.
Oh, hi.
One of
Nice to
them.
meet you. Oh,